dog. Whether you're not, you are on the air. You'll be quoted. So I don't know how that story grew, but it's legendary now. And I've reached the point where I no longer deny it because it
Jimmy,
creates
the one
a
thing you
persona.
told me, you said, Jeff, you might have a chance to go on TV. And you said you might have some work to do because it's all about right here, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Just about the face, Jimmy.
That's it. That's the communication is the eyes, the facial expression. Because it is television and there's a camera on you.
That's right, pal.
That's how it works. It's not
always great advice from the Tap Man.
Yeah,
I look after my friends.
Yeah, we love you. You're
Okay,
the best. Fired up here, buddy.
Okay, so we've got a number of guests. Mark Zecchino from the U.S. Open will be by at the bottom of the hour. Dave Poulin at 5. And I've just got confirmation. It's okay. We can do Yes Guy, No Guy at 5:30.
Wow.
Why? What's going on in the 6 p.m. hour? Jam-packed hour?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, we got Leah McHugh at 6:05 and Richard Griffin at 6:30. Jays were playing today and lost, unfortunately.
They were up 2-1. I was watching it. They were up 2-1, feeling pretty good, and then they let it slip away.
Yeah, so 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. This is not something you want to – it's already developed into a nice headline, and this is not something that you want to see continue. And it's unfortunate it happened this week. They lost 2 out of 3. So, I mean, it's hard to gain ground when you're losing in your own division. And, it is, early, mid-June, so there's plenty of time left. But, because of the schedules, they don't play some of these teams for a while. So it may create another problem.
Yeah.
I saw their record today posted, and against the AL East, it's one of the worst records in the league. But outside of it, it's one of the best.
Yeah, but guess what?
Yeah.
you got to win in your own division. Otherwise,
No kidding,
otherwise
Jimmy,
you go nowhere.
no kidding.
Yeah, you knew that, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's
in
not
big
good.
parade this afternoon, right? Denver and Jokic lost the MVP trophy. I mean, I think that's classic. Hey, where is it? Somebody will find it.
I feel like his brothers did something with it. Like those guys are a band.
Are you
of
being
misfits.
serious? Like
He
they
lost
don't know.
it. No, they found it, but he misplaced it, I guess is the better way to say it.
Wow. Well,
Those guys.
there's legendary stories, Jimmy. You might know more information than us about the Edmonton Oilers Cup runs back in the day, that the Cup would just be like, there's this big myth that one time the Cup was found on the side of the highway in Alberta.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky Way. It used to be called Capilano Drive, and now it's called Wayne Gretzky Way. And I believe I know the two culprits that left it behind when a car pulled up and they jumped in the car to go have a drink with the people, and they left the cup at the side of the road. A cab driver picked it up and returned it. Like, just stuff like that. Like, now
pretty hard to figure. Like, it's pretty hard to leave that thing behind, isn't it? Like, I would be guarding that thing with my life.
But you're in one. That's the problem. Like, nowadays, that's why Philip Pritchard walks around with it. It's because these guys are, they're enjoying themselves. They get distracted. All of a sudden, they turn around and it's gone, or you leave it behind, or whatever. I mean, I don't know if you saw the video, guys, of the Knights partying in Vegas. It looked like Aiden Hill was rapping, and Jack Eichel was on a table with the cup. Like, it looked like a party, and apparently it's still going right now.
Does the party ever stop in Vegas?
Well, I don't think so. Not when you've won the cup there. Like,
but with Philip Pritchard in the Cup, when everybody gets the Cup for one day, he doesn't stay at your house, right? He's probably close by in a hotel. And then
I think he's
I'd be like, buddy, come on.
I think he should be welded to the cup, so the cup and him are never separated.
I think what he does is, my understanding, I had a buddy who got it, I think, for part of 2 days. So he flies in with it, and then you hit the ground running. It's like a schedule. Okay, we're going to go to Children's Hospital. We're going to go play road hockey here with my buddies. We're going to have a dinner here. We're going to have it at the local rink so that people can come by and get pictures with it. And then you have friends and family there. And then it's a party night for just invited people afterwards. And at some point, I don't know when Philip Pritchard just shuts it down. Like, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and your goon buddies are still wanting to party, does he have to tough it out, or does he just fall asleep on the couch?
That's what I don't know. I don't know if he goes back to his hotel and takes the chance of it being without him, or he's because I'm sure people have wanted to have private moments, let's just call it that. And it would be like, Phil, like maybe you got to go somewhere else. I don't know how it works. I wish, Jimmy, I had have found out one day.
Bill, go for a walk. Come back in 10 minutes. But but the Cups. When the Cup is won, all through the offseason, I think Carolina might have been. I might be wrong here. Might have been one of the first teams to do this, where they used it extensively all summer long to raise charity money.
That's smart.
It has an agenda, right?
Sure. Like, I don't know if Carolina did that. I had a buddy, win it. Mike Commodore, who actually won it in Carolina. I went to his Cup party. Ray Whitney, guys like that. They brought it back to the Edmonton area. I'm not sure what they did with, what Carolina did with it during, the off season, because it seems like, don't scouts get it later on in the summer and stuff like that? Like,
I think if they can, they try to get it to every person, because I know Pete Friesen, the trainer in Carolina, he had his day with the Cup. I don't know if you get it overnight, but I think they try to make a point of everyone in the organization gets to have some kind of barbecue or do something with it. Well,
don't you think, now Pete Friesen, he's a legendary, he's a beauty, that guy. But don't you think he'd get it like September 7th, after everybody's gone? Like there'd be a pecking order, wouldn't it? Like everybody.
Well, yeah, it depends. I'm sure now. There's been some problems in the past couple of years because of the way the seasons have lined up and COVID and the schedule and everything. But it's the end of June right now. They've got plenty of time to get the Cup to everybody now before training camp starts.
That's true. Like, it'd be nice for everybody. I just wonder if you're day one, or what would you like to be if you got the Cup? Do you want to be like early on or later in the summer? Because I feel like those guys the keepers of the Cup, they'd be
Jamie, I would want it next Friday. I would want it next Friday and get it over with and have all your buddies and have a peek at it. And then you don't have to – because you know what it's like. There's probably 5 Cup parties leading up to the Cup party. So get it out of the way. Give it to me next Friday. I'll take it to my cottage, and then it's over.
Yeah. I mean, that would be pretty good. Like, Tatman, if you won the Cup, where would you go? What would you do?
Boy, as a broadcaster, I wouldn't get it, so I never really get there. Something in the community, right? And I would do it if it was my call to raise money for charity.
Yeah,
I like that.
I know, but Tad, a private party, like you get to bring it to a restaurant, you get your buddies around.
The vinyl's playing.
I'm sure I would be invited.
I don't know if I could play vinyl. Don't know if the dress would be appropriate, but nonetheless.
Honestly, you often dream of it. Like you were close to it. I didn't have a sniff at it, but you often think what it would be like, and you got to plan it. Like, some of these guys have to plan this party, and it's more. Yes, it's for them, but at that point, it's for the people that supported you. I feel like friends, family, all of that. Like, you're right. You get involved in charity. You do stuff that could help. But
it's like, Noodles. It's like a wedding party.
It's planning a wedding. Yeah.
You would think it's for the people that are getting married, but all these outside people have these demands and needs, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Or
rent a convertible and drive around and see where it ends up.
Well, you could do that, but I feel like I agree. I feel like it would be like floater central, because where's the cutoff line?
Oh yeah, my wife and kids, we need to have a little photo session, and it's our time. Like, people would have their own needs and demands, and it would drive you crazy.
Well, think about that. If you had it for 24 hours, you'd have to literally map out each hour, like 4 hours for pictures in this location. Over here, it would be a nightmare.
Well, and that's I guess that comes back to our original point, is those last 3 hours. If you get it from 7 a.m. till 7 a.m., so the following 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., is Philip Richards still sitting there, or is it pictures for it's pictures for your goon buddies by a campfire? That's what it is, I don't know. Either way, I love hearing stories. Some of the most unique ones. I don't know if you remember a player named Sean Podine.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember him?
Yeah.
So I heard a story in Colorado when he won the Cup. They took the Cup downtown to a bar right after the game, and he stayed in his gear. He took his skates off, and that was it. Stayed in his jersey, everything, for 24 hours. Ooh. Like at the bar, everything. Guy was walking around with his gear on, gloves, everything. Like, that was what he wanted to do. It was a verified story because I remember asking him about it because I had a few buddies that won the cup with him, and they said it was unbelievable. You go look in the corner; it's 4:00 in the morning. This guy's still got his jersey on and his equipment. It was awesome. He just said he wanted to soak up the moment.
We've got some NBA stuff as the parade was held earlier today. Jokic, and he's the center of attention here. Let's listen to him and watch.
You know that I told that I don't want to stay on parade, but I want to stay on parade. This is the best life. Yeah, this is amazing. This is we're all gonna remember this our whole lives, and when we see you guys that came out on the streets, and actually this one is for you. We love you, Denver. This one is for you. Thank you, guys.
Only a couple of beeps, not bad.
That's not bad. It's pretty simple. Like when the whole city is just like, it's such a special thing to win a championship. I believe that's Denver's first NBA championship, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys
47 years.
Yeah, it's not hard to get the crowd on your side when you address everybody and say, this one's for you. Like, that's a layup right there.
I mean, really, 47 years is quite a length of time.
Oh, really,
Yeah.
Jimmy? I got one. Do you know of any other ones?
What's 2023 minus 1967?
I've got two decades or 2 years that I now have on my bucket list. 1967 is on everybody's list, and 1957 is the last time the Detroit Lions did anything. So these are two things that have to happen.
Oh, that's right. You're a big Lions guy, right?
You and David Alter are the only two Lions fans I know. I always mention it. But, Jimmy, you got to admit, the Lions are on the way up for the first time in a long time.
How about the first time since 1957?
Well, they've had some good teams, and they made playoffs.
Oh, really?
What were you like? Let me ask you this, Tat, man. What was your attitude like when they went 0-16? Like, where was your headspace at as a fan?
I was pretty well convinced they'd somehow screw up the draft pick, but they didn't.
Well, but that's like, did you believe at any point during that season they would win one game?
No, I mean, this is a collection of how to do stuff wrong. Even when they do it right, they'll torch the first part of the season and then go on a 6-game winning streak, and everybody thinks it's all solved. Or they couldn't find a quarterback until Stafford to play the full season. The coach would last 3 or 4 years. The GM. I mean, this is how to ruin a franchise. Constant change at the top. Misdrafting. I mean, really, outside of the last 2 or 3 years, their draft record is pretty horrible. I mean, this is how
you had to have thought that they made an attempt to the fan base that they thought they were like, who was that one dude they brought in, Matt Millen or whoever his name was?
Oh, there was always.
It was like this guy. Finally, they got the right guy to fix this.
Yeah. And then
it was the biggest mess of all time. And then it was like, we're going to bring in this coach, and then Matt Patricia's coming from New England. Now they're going to be serious, and it was just a gong show as well.
Look, if you want to know how to mess something up, just research Lions history, and they've literally made every mistake. I mean, they had Vince Lombardi's relative as their offensive coordinator, and they couldn't score. So,
wow,
what do you want out of that?
It is pretty sad where Luke Wilson, loved that team, grew up loving it, played for them, and he hates them. That's where it's weird. That's where you're like, when he got a look behind the curtain and he's like, I want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
That's when it's tough.
Can you think of a hockey version of that?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I haven't seen behind the curtain. Arizona's creeping into that territory because of the ownership situation and the building. I love the people there. I really do. We're friends with Tyson Nash. He's a broadcaster there. Shane Doan's come over to the Maple Leafs. Doan's been, the pride of Arizona. And look at Shane Doan was a guy that Austin Matthews looked up to. Arizona's produced some pretty good players, including Matthew Nyes, who right around the corner is going to be.
I know, Jamie, but it's got to a point where it's like they're playing in a 5,000-seat arena. Yeah. They haven't been good in a long time. It's like their ownership, it seems like their ownership was in the news weekly for the last 5 years, where it's like, oh, there's a new owner. I think the recent owner might have recently gotten into some trouble. I'm not sure. I'd have to verify that. But it's one thing after another. And when you make it to the NHL, Tat, man, or any big league sports team, it's not what's in the dream, right? You get drafted and you think that everything's going to be in order and you're going to build towards something. Obviously, the athlete as themselves has to do something about that and perform and get better. But when the organization is nonsense around you, you're like, this isn't a part of the dream. Like, how is this even a part of the league?
Well, it's not. It's not the league standard. So that's embarrassing to say the very least. I don't know how that works. I don't know.
Yeah, I moved the organization. The Hartford Whalers moved to Carolina. And this isn't complaining. It was just the reality. But we had to drive an hour and 45 minutes to a town called Greensboro that we were never going to be in, play games, drive halfway back for practice. And I was like, this doesn't feel like the NHL. Like, I'll do it. I'm not going to complain about it. It's kind of weird. But this is like, you play for the Boston Bruins aren't doing this. It was just kind of a weird experience. You just kind of want, and that's why guys are starting to pick and choose. You want what else is out there. You're like the Vegas Golden Knights. They got a great practice facility. They got a great living setup where all the guys live. There's golf out there. It's just a good scene. And when you get out there, I'm sure Mark Stone will tell you, this is pretty darn good living out here.
Well, and the tax situation, like, there's just so many things that if you're looking at teams now, and I get it, like. But you check off all the boxes. If you're going to make a lot of money, you do have to look at your living setup and where you are personally. If you've got a young family, if where your wife is from or your spouse is from, where, you know, if they're American, they're Canadian, they're from Eastern Europe, all of that type of stuff. Like, that's why it is sometimes in Canada a bit of a challenge. Tatman, we were talking about it yesterday. Winnipeg and Edmonton, you know, it's a little bit of a grind sometimes to attract those free agents. I've talked to managers there in previous years where they're saying we have to draft and develop because it's not the most attractive market to get. You know, it isn't Florida, it isn't Vegas, it isn't California sometimes, and there's states that don't have state tax like Tennessee. Now Nashville is a great spot to go to, but ultimately you got to build a program, and they want to come. Edmonton's building a program there because they've got 97 and 29. You know, Toronto has got a top-notch program. By all accounts, it's one of the classiest organizations in the league. So now people do want to come here, but what comes with it is high taxes. You're in a fishbowl. It's a big fan base. They love you, but it's very noisy sometimes. So you have to factor in. That's outside of the on-ice stuff.
Right. In fact, the on-ice stuff only appeals to the player, but it's the player's family that has to be looked after as well, right?
Right, exactly. And that's a challenge, you know, like it depends. And it's a little different in NBA, a little different in Major League Baseball.
Well, wait a minute. No, the way you're describing some of those cities, I mean, that's the Raptors compared to a lot of the NBA cities.
Sure. Like, you know, the Raptors, like, and I know recency bias, Kawhi, you know, but Kawhi comes up here, gets a championship, can stay, and decides to go home. That's his prerogative. But you want to be a destination, and you build the organization. By all accounts, the Raptors are a classy organization. Masai's done a good job. So
it's all encompassing now, Noodles. It's like, you know, I think teams are starting to have, like, it was never a thing when we played in the NHL, but it's like a little area with almost a daycare at practice rinks for kids. Like, if guys want to bring their kids to practice, it's like, you guys go in there and I'll be out after practice. It's all that stuff. And Mark Shapiro, we had him on about a month ago, Jimmy, and he was talking like, these are all things you have to factor in now. It's just not come to the ballpark, come to the rink, come to the court and play. You guys got to be taken care of. Like, for free agency and the destination guys want to be, it's all got to be dialed in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's extremely well said. When we come back, we'll have Mark Zecchino from the U.S. Open. OverDrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. OverDrive on TSN 1050 and TSN 2. Welcome back to OverDrive. Jim Tatti subbing for Brian Hayes today and tomorrow. Hazy B back on Monday. And, of course, Noodles and O-Dog in their regular spots, the regular coves at their homes. The U.S. Open first round, Rickie Fowler, 8 under. The L.A. Country Club has never hosted the U.S. Open. 8 under for an opening round of the U.S. Open. Kind of odd, no?
Isn't that a record? Like 62. Isn't that the best round ever shot of the U.S. Open?
Boy, you'd love to have that after 4 rounds in some of these. I mean, you wouldn't even get there in some of these host places. Let's bring in Mark Zecchino, host of Golf Talk Canada TV and radio. Marco, how are you?
I'm good, James. It's just shockingly low scores right now, to your gent's points. And We got some overcast. We got some moisture overnight. LA Country Club's a spectacular venue, but in order for this golf course to push back, it needs to be firm and crispy, and we just don't have these conditions like that right now. And Rickie Fowler, that's a record, U.S. Open record tying 62 and a record-breaking birdie total. Guys, he had 10 birdies in the one round. That breaks the previous record by 2 birdies. I mean, wow, the scores are low.
So, Zeke, what are they going to do if there's no sunshine and it doesn't get baked out? How is the course going to fight back? Or is this going to be somebody winning the U.S. Open at 20 under par, or 22 under par?
If the forecast isn't accurate, we're going to have a winner that is somewhere in the high teens under par. I just don't know how they can make this golf course defend itself if it stays overcast, if we get moisture, then putting the pins in hole locations in unfair, ridiculous spots, which then just kind of makes it more of a circle.
Okay, we're going to fade out of that because there's a technical problem. We'll hook back up with Mark Zecchino. I don't remember. Well, 8 under's got to be a record, but I mean, usually when you look at the U.S. Open, their coverage, I mean, some of the conditions are ridiculous. The rough is punitive, to say the very least.
Jimmy, of all the shots I watched, it was like guy in the middle of the fairway, of the fairway.
Well,
there was some kind of
easy.
weird shots around the bunkers, but that was it. It was really different. And usually the leaderboard after day one, it's like 2 over, 2 over, 2 over, and they kind of creep back to even. But to see 8 under in those low scores, I don't know what the people that belong to the club think of it, and I don't know what the USGA is going to think of it.
Well, you got to wonder, isn't it the 14th hole where the Playboy Mansion is too, or guys? It's on that course, I believe, correct?
I'm surprised you had to stumble around for that. You don't know?
You man, no. Listen, we were talking about it yesterday. We've both
been there, Jimmy.
We both have been there in our lifetime. But I'm talking. You're playing the course like you shoot and it's high and wide, and all of a sudden you're in the Playboy Mansion backyard. Like what? Like how's that
send the
work?
caddy back there, find the ball.
He
Maybe
may
don't
never
come
make
back.
it up. Exactly. Your caddy goes in, he doesn't come back. That poor guy. Who knows? But I don't know if the guys would be aware that it's there. Like it's such an old school. Apparently, it's been bought and you move on from that. I don't think
these
that
guys
would be
are
a
so
story.
young. They're probably like that. That's just so over their head. They don't even.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, guys who's 25 years old, like Hugh Hefner was like 90 when he cashed it in, wasn't he? Like he had a long run.
He had a long run, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's in the past. And it's not a one-off. Xander Schauffele is 7 under. So
How do you segue out of that? Sorry,
you
Pat,
don't.
man. I just jammed
here's
you up.
exactly how you segue out of that. Let's go back to the U.S. Open. Mark Zecchino back with us, and hopefully the line's a little better. Mark, also, as we resume the conversation, we're talking about how to sort of deflect all the criticism from the course, but it looks like it's just going to go this way, doesn't it?
Well, here's the good news. Before the call drop, gents, the good news is every day moving closer to Sunday, it's supposed to get hotter. It's supposed to have more sun. By the time we get to Saturday, we're likely looking at heat and pure sunshine, and again for Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday, we're likely going to get crispy days, assuming they're accurate. Which also means, though, we're going to have one more day of good scoring tomorrow. And the real good scoring is going to come in that earlier wave. Later today, after 4 p.m. local time, we might get some sun. But by then, we've got, plenty of players through this golf course with optimum scoring opportunity. The other thing to mention at the moment, guys, is there's not a breath of wind. I'm staring up in the trees. I'm looking at flags. There's nothing moving. So you've got overcast. You've got soft. You've got no wind. It's like throwing darts out here. So what's really going to be interesting to see is come Thursday, Friday, how far can they push this lead? Are we at 12 under, 11 under? Where's the lead through 36? And then if it gets crispy, how far does it fall back? Because if it gets as crispy as they are suggesting it could get by late Saturday, it's going to be a more hold on as opposed to let's go make birdies. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. The USGA has been, accused in the past of letting golf courses get away from them. You want to talk about Crispy 2004 at Shinnecock Hills. They lost the golf course completely. It was unplayable. If they don't like the numbers on this board and decide to go that extreme, it could get ugly. But I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're heading that way. I still think we're going to have a winner this week somewhere between probably 8 to 13 under par is likely going to win this championship.
Mark, sometimes the U.S. Open, I think you could probably throw the British Open into the mix as well. After round one, there's usually a guy on the leaderboard where you're like, how'd that guy get up there? And is there any chance? Is there any chance he could hold on to the lead? With Rickie Fowler, like, he's shown some signs. He's got the different putter with the long grip. Like, is he coming around where, like, he could actually pull this off, or is this just going to be a guy fighting it inside for the next 3 days?
We won't know O'Dog until Sunday, really, right? Because if you look at his history, he's got this is his 48th start in a major. He's got 12 top 10s. He's got a second place in every major but the PGA, where he's got a third. 1 year he finished top 5 in all 4 majors. He's kind of done everything you could possibly do but win a major. Oh, and by the way, he won the 2015 Players' Championship. So if you can't win a major, the Players would be next on the list. So, he went through a major swing overhaul with Butch Harmon a year or so ago. Butch Harmon said this winter when we came into January, he said that Rickie Fowler's swing changes have finally started to take, and he's going to win this year, is what Butch said. And you mentioned the new putter as well. He's using a counterbalance, big mallet putter, completely different than the type of putter he's used throughout his career. So you don't know until you get to that back nine on Sunday, because all those changes are great. And when you're not playing with any pressure and you're playing with freedom, everything feels normal, right? And everything feels, rainbows and lollipops, until you're squeezing it a little tighter and you're playing for that major win to rip the monkey off your back at a much later age in life than you thought. If you were to ask Rickie Fowler, 15 years ago or 12 years ago, that kid probably would have told you he had several majors by now. So you wait and see in that moment if he can emotionally get over that hurdle. Obviously, he's striking it wonderfully, so I don't expect him to back up, too much over the next couple of days. Does he have the lead still? Who knows? We've got Xander Schauffele, Scottie Scheffler right behind him. We have big names still to tee off. But I don't see him fading at all, until we get to Sunday, and then we will answer a lot of questions when it comes to Rickie Fowler come Sunday afternoon.
Zeke, who has the advantage, the early tee times or the late tee times?
Early all day, guys. Early today, early tomorrow. Huge advantage, I think. There's a marine layer that rolls in. We're not that far from the coast. You get marine layer and a little overcast, it seems, every day here in La La Land. And by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that sun starts to poke through some of the marine layers, some of the smog, some of the things that are very LA. And that's when the bounce gets in the scorecard. It's also when the breezes tend to pick up, too, because it blows this stuff out of there. So early tee times certainly have the advantage. I expect them to have the advantage tomorrow as well. So obviously the draw will flip. So guys who went late today will get to go early tomorrow. You hope all of that evens out. And then we get to Saturday, and they just start stacking them up in the position. Of course, the leaders will go off last, and the later you tee off, the harder a golf course you're going to play. So we'll see if Friday is as kind as Thursday. Likely not as kind as today for the boys going out tomorrow morning, but still tomorrow morning will be better than tomorrow afternoon.
Scheffler's 3 under par, and I watched him today, Zeke, and the guy strikes the golf ball like Johnny Miller in his prime. And the putting, although he's 3 under, it still looks so awkward for him. It looks like any struggling golfer that's not playing golf, they're playing putter stroke or they're playing golf swing. Like, is he just so good that he's going to be in the hunt no matter what? Or like this putt, I don't know if this putting, the way he's rolling the rock, can hold up.
Well, I think he's so good, to your point, that he's going to be there no matter what. But a championship like this, it's to fight the putter. And I know what you're saying, because I watched him today tee to green, and tee looks like the most unmechanical, natural golfer out here. I mean, like, who would ever teach that footwork? I mean, it's crazy. His footwork's nuts. He looks like he's just getting up, aiming at his target, and letting it go. Then we get up to the green, and all of a sudden it looks like, to steal a line from David Faraday, it looks like he's putting with a live snake. Like, he doesn't know how to hold this thing. It looks mechanical. It looks uncomfortable. And I guess he bogeyed the last, because when I left to jump on the horn with you, he was in the middle of the fairway on 18 at 4 under par. So I'm assuming he bogeyed the last hole to get to 3 under. He had a 22-footer for birdie to get the 5 under. So I'm assuming he 3-putt the last hole of the day, Scottie Scheffler, if he's now at 3 under, which is saying a lot to your point about how uncomfortable he is. And if you had the chance to watch him today on 14, he had a straight uphill putt from the fringe for birdie at the par 5 and left himself almost 6 feet for par. Luckily enough, he knocked it in. But the first thing you can really tell when a guy's not comfortable with his putter is that pace control, especially pace control from like 20, 25 feet. That's not a thing a world-class player should struggle with. These aren't 40, 50, 60 footers, 20, 25 footers. If they're not going to make them, they should have, no more than 2.5 feet at best. Leaving yourself 6 feet on a makeable birdie effort from the fringe speaks volumes to how uncomfortable he's still feeling, regardless of statistically it might say today.
Marco, it's interesting when you go back over the I don't want to say merger, that's not the right word, but the sort of solving of the competition problem, however you want to say that. Last week it was huge for 3 days, and then Nick Taylor sort of dissipated it. Rory didn't speak this week. So what's been going on now that the tour is back in the great old US of A in L.A.?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like almost the least amount of live talk I've heard in over a year. It really, like, no one's talking about it at all. Everybody is standing around looking at each other going, like, do you have any answers? Do you have answers? And nobody knows a thing. There's literally 5 people in the world of golf that kind of know where this is going. And one of them's in the hospital, Jay Monahan, right? Hopefully he's doing better, recovering from whatever ailment. A lot of us are kind of just guessing that. We're wondering if it was just stress-related that put him there. What, the last few months have likely been like for him, dealing with this meeting of the golf world in this new umbrella company. But everybody is just so left with the same questions. Is LIV still going to operate as LIV? Are they going to fold into the PGA Tour? If they fold into the PGA Tour, is it some cut? After the year, and the PGA Tour pauses their schedule for the odd LIV event. The players who said no to the money, there's rumors of them being compensated for staying with the PGA Tour. I mean, we have so much speculation, so many questions that everybody has just said, okay, let's just not talk about it because none of us really know anything. So in a way, since the weekend at the RBC Canadian Open, it's really a breath of fresh air. We're just kind of back to talking about golf again and talking about golf course, and Nick Taylor certainly did that for everybody on Sunday, and now Rickie Fowler's done it for everybody here on the grounds today. So very talk.
Tiger Woods used to say you can't win it on Thursday, Mark, but you can certainly lose it. And with that being said, like the leaders, now there's another guy, Schauffele, at 8 under par. Like, although you can't shoot yourself out of it today, like if you post a +2, you're probably in big time trouble.
I think we lost him.
I think we lost him.
Yeah, he's gone. Mark Zecchino.
It was hanging on there for a second. You could see it was starting to fade, but
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's in the 14th hole. He got lost in the backyard there.
I think when you said the Schauffele score, he had to run for cover. There's a breaking story there. Could you imagine? I mean, Rickie Fowler is official with the 8 under. His round is done. For 2 people to do that in the same round at the same U.S. Open.
Yeah, I like the grind. Like, these guys are usually so far under par, Jimmy, on every tour event. I like to see the grind. I know Hayes thinks the same thing. It's like, even par, win the tournament 1 under, and it's like, what the hell's it going to look like now? 2 guys at 8 under par after 1 round at the U.S. Open?
Yeah,
I don't know if this is something that they wanted to explore. They knew this was going to happen. I can't imagine the USGA was looking at this as a possibility after 1 round.
Are there adjustments? Would they make any adjustments after today? Oh, if they didn't like the scores, if they felt the course was a bit too easy, would they
honestly, if the weather stays the same, there's nothing they can do to the course. They could tuck some pins, but they're going to do that anyway.
Right.
I don't know. It's just like it's firm and fast when it's sunny out and hot, but I don't know how they're like if they can't change that, I don't know what they could do to that golf course.
Got a Canadian update here. So Corey Connors is even, Hadwin's even, Pendrith and Svensson are 1 over, Sloan 2 over, Hughes and Taylor go off at 5:05. So they're teeing off until about 5:30 today to get the round started and finished. Because remember, it's in LA, so there's 3 hours time difference. Long
Late
day.
night golf, Jimmy.
Pardon me?
Late night golf on TV. I love it.
The best kind.
The best kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Where the cars line up and you, just like playing hockey when you were a kid, right?
That's right. That's
Headlights.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, but this is totally off the beaten path here. 2 guys at -8, one's done. I mean, I can remember U.S. Opens where it was just a joke. You couldn't keep the ball on the putting green.
But if you're
like with a sand wedge, it would bounce off into the rough, and it's just a grind, and they're losing their mind. I don't know. They must. The thing would suck if you're a player and you go out there and you think you play okay and you're even par. You're like U.S. Open even par is pretty good, and you're 8 back. You're like you're basically done.
I'd like to be Justin Thomas. He's +3 right now. Like you're 11.
No,
back.
it's Gonzo. Yeah, you're Gonzo.
Well, so Connors and Hadwin at even par tied for 26.
Yeah. I mean, not Gonzo, Jamie, because Nick Taylor won the Canadian Open last week, and he was 75 in his first round. But that's a miracle. That might happen once a year on tour.
Well, guess who's right there? Tommy Fleetwood, Hayes' guy, +3, finished. So, tied for 83. So he's got a lot of work ahead of him to get to catch up to -8. But yeah, that's a massive pile. Like, where would the cut be if it ended today? That would be, +2, +3 type of thing.
Yeah, something like that. I'm just looking at there's how many people there. You go to T12 before it hits even.
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like I don't know. It's almost like the course is a little bit too easy. Hopefully they can. You just don't want to see like a -22 type of thing to win it. That would be terrible.
I mean, there are a ton of people, Phil Mickelson included, that are even in this thing, and all. Some of them are still out there, obviously, so that's going to change. But right now, it is a rush hour traffic jam at even par at the U.S. Open. Interesting storyline. We'll come back. We've got an open segment next, which means just about anything could happen here. This is Overdrive on TSN 1050, TSN 2. Oh, yes, guy. Jim Tatti subbing for Hazy B. He'll be back on Monday. So that means I'm here again tomorrow. O-Dog and Jamie McLennan, a.k.a. Noodles, of course, in the regular spots. And before we get going here, Golf Town has everything Dad could want for Father's Day with the biggest and best assortments of brands and products. Follow at TSN 1050 on Instagram. Find our latest giveaway post for your chance to win a $500 Golf Town gift card for Father's Day. Yes, Guy, that's a $500 Golf Town gift card for Father's Day. Plus, we'll have another, just a minute now, we'll have another $500 gift card to give away on Friday right here on Overdrive. Golf Town has a store-wide deal thing happening now, running until Father's Day with fresh deals dropping every week, including buy one, get one, 50% off apparel. Head to golftown.ca now to check out all the Father's Day deals, and I'm really happy I get paid by the word. That was a long one.
That was.
Hazy B just rips through it, right?
Yeah, but just snuck in a yes guy in there. That's what happened.
That's what made it special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to admit, there's nothing better than a Golf Town gift card. Not like some cheesy head cover where the person assumed you might like it. It's just a gift card. Go get whatever you want.
Yeah, and then you get a $500 gift card and spend $1,500.
That's really what it is.
Because you can't say no, right? That's how that works. By the way, we have a new game here. This is, I'm taking liberty of creating a new game. It's called Too Sensitive or Salty, and it revolves around Kyle Dubas, who was given a honorary degree by Brock today. And just before we get into the clip, I just want everybody to know I am absolutely, thrilled to have any honorary degree that you will throw my way. I will create wall space for these things, and I want to start a collection. But that's me. This is Kyle Dubas today. Listen to what he had to say, and then we'll say salty or oversensitive.
Oh.
On May 19th, I was fired from my job with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it was at that point, after thinking for a couple of months after Dr. Ig had called, exactly what I wanted to say. And what I could be helpful with. I'd never been fired before. That was my first time. Hopefully my last, but I'll probably get that same conversation again at some point. That's life and the way that it goes. As Dr. Ig just said, embrace failure. We've had a lot of failure in my time with the Leafs and Sault Ste. Marie, and I'm happy to share that with you at all times. That's the way it goes.
Okay, so guys, was he salty or are we oversensitive?
Well, the one thing I don't agree with, he wasn't fired. He asked for different demands that were on the table, and they weren't accepted, so it was his contract wasn't renewed. Fired would have been if he got fired at Christmas time, so he wasn't fired. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. People like to take the little pot shot. I don't have a problem with it, but I just don't agree with the comment that he was fired. I don't think he was fired. He just wasn't renewed.
Yeah, his contract was up, and apparently the demands changed. So
yeah, I wonder why.
Well,
Take a
exactly.
guess, Jimmy.
Look
Take
at where
a guess,
he's
Jimmy.
ended up, and more term, more money, all of that type of stuff. But good for him. I'm of the mindset. He talked about it. Failures, like they didn't win a cup here. You didn't win a cup and then just say peace out. They won one round, built a good program here, but they didn't finish the job, or he didn't. And now it's up to the group he leaves behind, and that's Brad Treliving and Brendan Shanahan and their management team to do that. So Kyle's allowed. Fired I think it depends. It's in the eye of the beholder. There are Dubasites out there, and there are people that are on Team Shanahan. I'm somewhere in the middle, and I think let life live, and he'll be fine in Pittsburgh, and I think they'll be fine here in Toronto.
I think O-Dog had the best description of it, and that's exactly how it happened, and that's probably how it should be stated. The one thing that, as I'm listening to that, and I'm thinking, as Noodles was speaking there, that many times a general manager sort of sets the table, the next guy comes in and finishes it. But with Vegas, I mean, that's the original front office. I know McCrimmon got boosted to GM, and there was a promotion or two there, but still, it's the original group, which is something, isn't it?
Well, 6 years. It's not like, it's not David Poyle's run in 30 years or whatever, and they just grind it out. Like it literally was 6 years from pillar to post. I mean, the first year, obviously, they didn't play, and it was up to McPhee to scour the league and all that. But, ultimately, it's a scenario. I still think it's fascinating. It almost has to be a case study, like how you could build a program like that. And listen, there's lots of people, well, you didn't point out that they were over the cap. Yes, I know. There was some, we'll call it cap circumvention. Timing of star players being healthy or not, an aggressive owner. And they had, we'll call it favorable expansion rules. But they still had to put together the team. They still had to do all these things. They still had to go and sign Alex Pietrangelo and get Mark Stone and get rid of Marc-Andre Fleury and get rid of Peter DeBoer for, Bruce Cassidy. Like, there were some bold moves there. Jack Eichel trade. Yeah. Like, they
all the positive stuff a team does, like, you need some luck involved too.
Sure.
Like to get to the finish line, there's some luck involved, and you got to have a great save and great goal scoring. There's only one team that's happy at the end, and everyone else is kind of scratching their head and trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
It's an incredible win for an organization that's been a winning factory since its inception, though, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and
like 15 series wins. Like, that's insane.
15 in 6 years.
Yeah.
It is.
15 in 6
crazy.
years. Okay, I'm just saying that because...
Yeah, but it is. I mean, it is. And people say, well, they started from scratch, had no dead money, no dead contracts, all of that. Well, doesn't matter. Like, they were.
Yeah. I will say one thing about that organization. Like, that's what you call, like, being close. Like, we always say there's, like, the Leafs are the favorites again. And I always ask myself why. Because they talk about 15 series wins. It's like year after year, conference championships. You had a setback where they missed the playoffs last year. But man, that's being around it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I know the one year, their first year, they went to the finals, but that's giving yourself a chance and always being around it, just waiting to break through.
Yeah.
The other stuff's not being around it.
Yeah. Well, we know that one. Coming up next, we'll have Dave Poulin, top of the hour. Later on, the highly anticipated Yes Guy, No Guy. This is OverDrive on TSN 1050 and TSN 2.